For centuries, we've been told a pretty simple story about how the Great Pyramids were built. But what if that whole story has a massive physical flaw? What if the proof, literally carved into the stone, tells a completely different story about our past? Okay, let's dive right into this because this whole investigation kicks off with a paradox that just challenges everything we think we know. So here it is, the absolute heart of the problem. On one side, you've got the tool the pyramid builders supposedly used, a basic copper chisel. On the Mohs scale of hardness, that's a 3. And on the other side, the material they were cutting, granite, which comes in at a 7. The tool is more than twice as soft as the stone it's supposedly carved with mind-blowing precision. And this analogy from our source material just says it all, doesn't it? Trying to cut granite with copper is literally like trying to sharpen a steel knife with a stick of butter. It breaks a fundamental law of physics. So how in the world do they do it? The official story says, oh, they just had a lot of patience. But when engineers look at the evidence, they see something totally different: the traces of machines. To really get to the bottom of this mystery, we're going to frame this explainer like an investigation. We'll start by digging into 3 impossible paradoxes. 3 huge questions that the conventional story really struggles to answer. First up, the technological paradox we just talked about. Soft tools, super hard stone. How? Second, the chronological paradox. This one comes from the Sphinx. See, it's covered in signs of massive rainfall, but it was supposedly built when Giza was already a desert. Weird, right? And finally, the knowledge paradox. How did these ancient builders manage to encode mathematical constants like pi into the pyramid's design millennia before they were supposed to have been discovered? You'll see how all these pieces start to connect. Let's start by taking a closer look at that technological paradox, but this time through the lens of pure logistics. Mainstream history tells us the Great Pyramid was built in just 20 years. Okay, that sounds pretty fast, but plausible, right? Well, not when you actually do the math. And the math reveals something we're calling the 5-minute block problem. The calculation is just brutally simple. To build the entire pyramid in 20 years, the workers would have had to quarry, shape, transport, and perfectly place one of these multi-ton blocks every 5 minutes. Think about that. Every 5 minutes. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no holidays, no weekends for 2 straight decades. And remember, that 5-minute window isn't for just one task. It has to include all 4 of these massive steps. Quarrying a block that weighs as much as an SUV, hauling it for miles, shaping it with incredible precision, and then hoisting it up into its final perfect spot. The logistics alone, they just seem to completely shatter the official timeline. And, this isn't just a thought experiment. When modern researchers actually tried to replicate this, it failed spectacularly. Back in 1991, a team led by a famous Egyptologist, Mark Lenner, tried to move a single 2-ton block with 44 people. They couldn't even get it more than a few feet before all their gear broke. So an experiment that was designed to prove the official theory ended up doing the exact opposite. Okay, so if the logistics just don't add up, what about the physical evidence? Let's switch gears and actually look at the marks left on the stones. Because the source material for this theory argues these aren't the marks of simple hand tools at all. They're the undeniable footprints of lost machines. The smoking gun, according to this theory, is an artifact known as Core 7. It's a piece of granite that was drilled out of a larger block, and it was found way back in 1883. And on this one single piece of stone, there's evidence that could totally rewrite human history. And here is the truly mind-bending part. The spiral groove that was cut into this granite core, well, it indicates that whatever drill made this thing was chewing through solid granite at a rate 500 times faster than our own modern industrial drills can manage today. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just advanced technology for the time, it's practically super technology, even for us. Now, the standard explanation for this is patience and rubbing abrasive sand. But as one manufacturing expert put it, patience can't do this. The grooves are too sharp, too regular. They are the unmistakable signature of high-speed machine tooling. It's a classic case of physical data going up against historical dogma. So we've challenged the logistics, we've challenged the tools. Now let's go after the timeline itself. Because the Giza Plateau holds this enormous clue, but it doesn't come from archaeologists. It comes from geologists, a clue that suggests these monuments are thousands of years older than we're told. Okay, take a close look at this comparison. On one side, you have typical wind erosion. It creates these rough, horizontal patterns like you see on the other Old Kingdom tombs. But on the other side, you have the enclosure wall of the Sphinx. See those deep, smooth, vertical grooves? That is the classic, textbook signature of erosion from thousands and thousands of years of heavy rain. And this is what creates this massive timeline paradox. The last time the Giza Plateau saw enough rainfall to cause that kind of erosion was around 10,000 BC. But the Sphinx was officially built around 2500 BC, when the area was already a desert. For that water erosion to be there, the Sphinx must be thousands of years older than the official story, putting it at least 12,000 years old. Now, a common argument you'll hear is, well, if this advanced civilization existed, where are their artifacts? Where are all the clay pots? But the source material poses this fantastic counter-question. A culture that could machine granite and move mountains, would they really be using primitive tools? You know, the absence of simple artifacts might actually be the evidence of just how advanced they really were. So we've got impossible logistics, impossible tools, and an impossible timeline. What on earth could possibly explain all of these anomalies at the same time? Let's move into the final part of our investigation and explore a really radical theory for what the pyramid was actually for. The whole debate really just boils down to this. The standard narrative says the Great Pyramid was a tomb for a pharaoh, even though no mummy was ever found inside. But the alternative theory, one championed by an engineer named Christopher Dunn, argues that it was never a tomb at all. It was a machine, a giant power plant. Just take a look at this side by side. On the left, you have the internal structure of the pyramid. On the right, you have Nikola Tesla's actual design for his Wardenclyffe tower, which was built for the wireless transmission of energy. The components are, well, they're startlingly similar. You've got a grounding system deep underground, a resonant chamber, and shafts that act as waveguides. According to this theory, the pyramid wasn't a tomb to honor the dead. It was a machine designed to harness the living energy of the earth itself. Okay, so we've walked through the logistics, the tools, the timeline, and a wild unifying theory about its purpose. We have laid out the case against the official story, piece by piece. Now it's time to put all the final evidence together. So let's just recap the case against the mainstream theory real quick. We have the logistics, a construction schedule that seems mathematically impossible. We have the tools, copper that's physically too soft for the job. We have the knowledge, advanced math and astronomy built right into its architecture. And we have the timeline, geological proof that points to a much, much older date. When you put all this evidence on the table, that initial question of how they built the pyramids, it starts to change. The question becomes less about their methods and more about their identity. The real question becomes, who were they? And that leaves us with two pretty profound possibilities presented in the source material. Was it a forgotten, highly advanced human civilization, one that rose and fell long before the pharaohs even existed? Or, just as the ancient myths from all around the world seem to suggest, was this knowledge a gift from gods who came down from the stars? The evidence is there, carved in the stone. The interpretation? Well, that's up to you.